Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm going to talk about what it means to have your natal Saturn in the sign of Sagittarius. So what is Saturn? Saturn is the planet of karma, difficulties, limitations, an area of life that is a real struggle to us, but once we master it, it becomes one of our strengths. So Saturn in the sign of Sagittarius can show a crisis of faith. People with Saturn in Sagittarius can be great at motivating other people and seeing the higher side of life and seeing, wisdom and understanding, beautiful spiritual truths. But when it comes to their own life and their own faith and their own purpose, they can have a crisis there where they can struggle with feelings of atheism, feelings of being atheist and not having a hard time with a belief in God or something higher. Usually that's where their struggle lies, is that they so badly, want to believe in something higher, but they really struggle with that. And often there's an upbringing that was very dogmatic, like either in organized religion, they were brought up like in a super intensive religious upbringing where they were seen as bad or sinful if they did not adhere to that belief structure, or they were just brought up in a way where they weren't allowed to have their own beliefs and develop their own higher mind, their own wisdom. They had to be forced into a belief structure that they weren't comfortable with because it wasn't coming from their own self and soul. So now when they try to access the higher mind, access their own interpretation, their own experiential knowing of God, it brings up pain, it brings up fear, and it brings up a crisis of belief. What's real, what's not. And with this position, they can, when they do end up coming to their own belief about something and their own set of rules and morals and like a way to live, their principles to live by, they can really stand by these very strongly. And that can be a very good thing, or it could be a way for them to kind of be morally superior to others who do not adhere to those belief systems. Thus, kind of recreating what it was like for them in their early upbringing, right? So that's something to watch out for with this placement. But this placement is actually very powerful for the spiritual seeker because it doesn't really give them a choice to not explore their faith and to, examine their belief systems and connect with something higher. So these people end up on the spiritual path or on a religious path, or, studying something that's going to bring them wisdom. They end up being, very, very intelligent because the mind is so grounded and so able to actually like concentrate in meditation on these profound, like, ninth house Sagittarian concepts of life and death and God. And it's, the ninth house is so hard to put words on in a way, but so these people with Saturn and Sagittarius, they do end up being one of the wise ones, because this life doesn't really give them much of a choice, because that is their big lesson, that is their big struggle, is this crisis of faith and this needing to know and experience wisdom and God and something higher, and they really can struggle with like authority authority figures, and so they actually end up becoming their own authority on certain things, which actually ends up being a very empowering thing. When you talk with these people, you'll realize how much power and inner authority they actually have. Like I'm just imagining, some of the people that I've had as clients that have Saturn and Sagittarius, and when you're teaching them something, it's like they already know. Like, you are not really teaching them anything because they know everything. And I don't actually mean that like from an egotistical way. It's actually like they're just so wise. Of course, this could also become egotistical when we have the shadow side of this placement, or if this placement is heavily afflicted with certain aspects that would make them, maybe narcissistic or morally superior, right? There could be like this feeling of, I already know everything, you can't teach me anything. But that's not really what I was describing, although there is the potential for that. What I was more describing is like, when you teach them something, they already intuitively know it, right? If you're teaching them something true, because they end up having a very strong felt intuitive sense of the truth. Okay. And the truth, I mean, whatever the truth actually is, but let's just say there are certain things that are actually spiritual truths, right? And the person with Saturn and Sagittarius, because of this lifelong struggle of faith, they end up actually being one of the people that can feel and experience the truth. And then they can also teach it to others. So the people with Saturn and Sagittarius can end up being like these profound spiritual teachers. They can be knowers of God in like a non-religious sense, in a very direct spiritual knowing sense. And they can be quite motivating, because once they've figured it out and they've connected with their own brand of spiritual knowing and truth that doesn't reflect the childhood belief systems or whatever was tried to be forced onto them, once they come to their own, they're really good at helping others who are going through that similar crisis, right? Like, they can help motivate you out of your struggle of faith because they've been through it, right? And so that's really the gift of this placement, is this fiery enthusiasm and zest for life that will come in their search of it, because they are desperately searching for it. They are searching for meaning in a world that can feel so meaningless. And so it's a big search, it's a big quest, it's a big job, but once they find their own personalized version of the truth, they then become the light for others. And they're very exciting teachers. They're very, like, they can instill a fire and a passion into you just from talking with them. They're very inspirational. And yeah, once they find their search, and I mean, in one aspect, they'll always be searching for more too, right? Because that's the Sagittarian archer, it's never complete, right? But once they find their own brand of truth, and they're always going to be finding more and more, but once they really settle in on their own belief systems and their own view of what the truth is, then they can really shine this light far and wide and help others as well who are going through spiritual crisis as they were. So yeah, it's a very complex placement. I feel like Saturn in the mutable signs, it's so hard for me to explain, but I hope that made some sense and was helpful. And yeah, I also offer one-on-one sessions. My links are below. So yeah, thanks for watching, you guys, and we'll talk super soon.